Hello, everybody. This is going to be our much more in-depth, full of spoilers. We can call it a review, I guess, but more of just like
digging in. I would say it's
like a first impressions, but not worrying about spoilers and like just talking about stuff. Some reviewy parts, like just what we liked, didn't like. But yeah, if you have not seen the movie, stop this video right now. We have another video that is spoiler-free about just how we felt about it. Yeah, you can click the microphone, and it'll take you to there. But yeah, this one is the chains are off. And
chains are off. We're not only... I wouldn't say it's a review. I think it's taking this movie and putting it under a microscope. There's so many underlining points in this movie that a lot of people will have maybe missed, don't understand. Like, we haven't even seen them all, because I've only seen this movie a couple times. Stu's seen it once. So we're doing our best. But if we happen to spoil anything, we forewarned you, so I'm not sorry if this hurts anyone here.
Yeah, there's no spoilers on the other one. There's gonna be tons in here.
Like, Han shot first.
Han shot first.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of Han.
All right, let's speak of Han.
Spoilers coming out of the gate hard.
Well, let's first start with that. Let's start from the ground up with Han. Like what with Han Solo, he met his demise in this one. Obviously, through a fiery, heart-wrenching, like literally heart-wrenching moment with his son Ben. Killing him. We all saw it. If you didn't, suck it.
You shouldn't be watching this video.
And we warned you. But he took it. That was that. It made most sense for Han's character to be the one that was going to go. Throughout the progressions of 4 to 6 in his movies, he was growing consistently. And then I felt the last thing that he needed to do to grow as a person was to acknowledge the Force, which he does. He says, it's all true. The Force, the light and the good that balances everything. It's all true. I felt right then it was putting the cherry on top of his character that, this is as far as you can go to make any significance. And the funny thing is people don't realize is Han Solo was supposed to die in like the second movie or fifth movie. In Empire Strikes Back, he was supposed to die. But because he was so beloved, and
episode 5, but the second movie,
he was supposed to die, but he got so popular. It was like the reverse, like the opposite of Jar Jar Binks, right? Like,
I guess was the idea that when he was frozen in carbonite, he was supposed to he could die or he could not die. They could make that decision, and that would be it. Like they didn't change like they were going to shoot him, and then they decide, put him in carbonite. But
I'm pretty sure it was going to be carbonite,
and it was just like we can decide with the next movie if he dies.
George Lucas has created a giant universe. He knows the story. He's created this whole thing that's almost as big as Middle-earth, if not bigger. So he already knew his stuff. It's not like he was taking up his pencil and was like, now what are we going to do with him by the time he gets the approval to write the script, right? Like, he knew what he was going to do already. But because Han Solo was the biggest character and it made the biggest career in the end of a certain actor, it only made sense to keep him going in some way. Yeah. And he made that work, and then after wrote the expanded universe out of that. And here's one thing I have to say off topic. I'm really choked that this new movie, though, cuts out all of the original canon books. It destroys so many of them, where I would say this should be the original canon, and then this is just like almost like a new universe of like Spider-Man, like how there's multiple universes and stuff. I think
go the Dragon Ball Z route where there's just
the movies. Yeah,
there's many.
Yeah, that one pained me a bit.
Yeah, if you like the book lore, which I don't know much about, but
there's a lot to it. Han Solo's character was in this movie, I would say, perfect. Like it had the good bit of scoundrelness and when you need to run, but also showed a lot of compassion and everything. And when he got stabbed and like him being, that was the one point I would say Han was his most brave moment, when he screamed out to his son to try and turn him back to the light side. Because we've seen him do his thing where he's trying to impress Leia by running after like 5 stormtroopers, and then see there's a room of 1,000 of them, and then runs away screaming with his tail between his legs. But in this case, he's confronting someone that he knows is way way stronger than him and everything, and he knows he's probably going to fail.
Yep.
But he, he mans up.
I knew, like the second...
The moment it happened.
The moment that Ben or...
Kilo Ren?
Yeah, is, like, just standing there, and Han
knew.
Just begins to move towards him. I'm just like...
It's it.
There's been a lot of Han in this movie.
Yeah.
I think this movie is mostly, like, as far as, like, the old cast, about Han. Like, it's about, like, finding Luke, but the movie's about, like, Han, and I think how they're going to do it is, like, each movie will be... Like, the next movie would probably be explaining a bit more about, like, Luke and...
I would say Luke and Rey are going to be off to the side, kind of like a Dagobah situation, and then it's going to be more about Leia fronting the next defense.
Yeah, and, like, maybe, like, Luke explaining, like, what even happened. Like,
there will be tidbits and everything
and all
like that
stuff.
For sure.
But, yeah, I think, like, this movie, like, as far as having the character in your face, it's mostly Han. Because you don't want to, like, have all three of them on the screen so much, because then they'll also shadow the new ones. And Han was kind of, like, passing the torch to, like, Rey and Finn
and well, that made sense because they got they get into the Falcon first and fly it and do their thing, and
she has the Falcon now.
Yeah, and I mean, and then he pops in and is just like, hey, and then everyone claps and everything. So it's like, okay, this is going to be that camaraderie right now.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was really well done. Now, as far as the new characters go, I mean...
Actually, right before going to that, I just want to go back to the Han thing. One part that I noticed that was really cool was when Han was going up and they were and he was confronting Ben, and they're standing on, like, the most dangerous place to talk to anyone. The sun that they were pulling energy from was still just barely lit and was lighting Ben.
It was pretty symbolic.
And then basically right once they got the rest of it, because, like, Ben was, like, on the fence, and he's been on the fence, like, the whole movie, and he was, like, presenting, like, my weapon, and then the light, like, goes out.
And then there's the struggle.
And then there's the struggle. And
then he gets punctured.
And that was little...
that was a good touch.
Piece of just movie imagery.
Yeah. Okay, so if we're going to go back into that, I have to bring up one thing that did bother me a bit. Because there is that expanded universe, there was these kids. So Luke had one kid with Mara Jade. I really hope that Mara Jade at least gets mentioned in some way, and that Luke did have a kid somewhere. I hope he's not just a hermit like Yoda.
Turns out it's right.
I don't think it will be, but it may. I think there's something different there going on. I'll talk about it in a sec. So they have that person, and his son's name was Ben Skywalker. All right? So that was that. So when he screamed out Ben, I'm like, all right, they're tipping the hat that there was a Ben Skywalker, but this is Ben Solo. So I was kind of like, this doesn't make sense. Now, Han and Leia have 3 kids. They have 2 twins.
Mm-hmm.
And they have another one. So they have Jason, Anakin, I forget the other one name, but one of them does turn evil. And then, the other one is kicking or whatever. And I just find it very interesting that they name their son, like, Ben.
Yeah,
I mean... I get it, but...
I mean, someone has to be named Ben, I guess, is the thing. And we just don't know about Luke's. It does seem a little weird that, like, the Han Leia kid would be named Ben, because
Ben wasn't a huge point of their lives at all.
Didn't, like, Han know Ben for, like, a day?
Like, he was just an old man to him. His death didn't have any problem with him, whereas, like, Luke was, like, really torn up, because he actually grew up with Ben, right? Like, Ben was overseeing him as a old magician hermit, right?
Yeah,
like
old Ben Kenobi.
Yeah, so I was very interested that they went Ben and not Anakin, right? And
unless Luke, like, doesn't have a kid and is, like, sticking to the Jedi way, which would seem pretty odd, but since
what Jedi way? There is no Jedi way. There's supposed to be a new Jedi Order, and you're supposed to create more Jedi. Well, how do you do that?
Yeah, spread the seed a bit.
And the thing that makes me really conflicted with how, like, in the last movie, you said there was, if you watch the end of like them all together, right?
Yeah.
And you watch the end of Return of the Jedi, and like after the latest one where you should see Anakin pop up, and it's Hayden Christensen, right? Not little boy, not the old man that you're like, who are you, or anything like that. It ends like that, right? So then you go into these movies and you watch this, and then Kilo Ren, or Ben, has this huge infatuation with Darth Vader. Not Anakin, but the principle of what Darth Vader was and everything.
Symbol.
But the thing I don't understand is, if Luke needs to build a new Jedi Order, wouldn't then he be talking with Ghost Ben, Kenobi, Ghost Yoda, and Anakin? And wouldn't Anakin, because this is supposed to be his pure Jedi self, be kind of being kind of a counterpart for Kilo to not sway in the way?
Yeah, I guess
like that's where my conflict is in there.
Yeah, it's hard to know, like, until we see like the next movie or the movie after that, whenever it starts explaining some of these things, because it wasn't until the very last moment that we even get to see Luke. And I was like getting worried when watching that movie. I was just like, "Are we going to see Mark Hamill? I want to see Mark Hamill."
That ending was very Highlander, like it, it really was. It was pretty funny. I felt bad for Luke because it looked like he has the shittiest place to be right now. Because when he turned, he was kind of looked at her, being like, "You got food? Like, I'm really hungry, man."
Like I used the Force to survive like the last 30 years on like water, but I don't think I can do any more than that.
I honestly didn't like the long pause of holding the lightsaber out. I thought he should have turned and then Force grabbed it because it's his and everything like that.
Maybe. I don't know. Like, I do appreciate, like, it was a nice like way to end it, and like not saying anything.
Like she's lending his hand, and you don't know what's gonna, what's gonna happen.
It's fine, and looks like I think he lost quite a bit of weight for this role.
He lost about 25
just
pounds
to stand around, but I'm sure they've already like started filming like scenes with him anyway. They probably know a few things that they want with Mark Hamill right away. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to find out what the blood like.
How everything...
It's still question marks. What kids even exist? Who's who?
Well, I really think that Kilo Ren and Rey are siblings. I wouldn't say that it's Luke's daughter. I would say it's both the Solos. I would say it's both them.
Like that is a possibility.
It just seems like because the battle between them seems family-esque, almost like...
It does. It's like just
Empire Strikes Back type of thing, like...
It seems very like sibling fight, but I mean, if it was Luke's, they'd be like cousins anyway.
They would be, but I don't think.
But like the problem I have is like trying to figure out like how did she get dropped away from?
That's the reason family. Is because since it is connected with the Skywalker family, they only know that Luke is a Jedi. Like Leia, she obviously...
She's Force sensitive.
She's Force sensitive because she can feel when Han is dead and everything like that. And it'd be stupid for having that speech in the trailer of it being like, my father has it, my sister have it, you have that power too. It would make no sense for her to just not progress in any way of understanding the Force. But, where was I going with this?
I don't know. Do you think they're siblings? And I say that it seems awkward to have had like one of them like be trained, grow up, and become an asshole, and she was marooned.
Well, that's the thing.
Really
is the entire galaxy or the First Order is looking out for Luke. Now they're only looking out for that because they've already turned on one Force user that's trained to the dark side, right? And they already, as what it sounded like, is Kilo Ren slaughtered all the students as well, right? Like all the younglings, like Mr. Skywalker. I think that the premise of her getting dropped off on Jakku, just like almost being like the new Tatooine, is to hide her.
Yeah, I just wonder like how young she was when they did that, because
in the movie it seemed like when they did that little backtrack thing, it was like maybe when she was 6, or like a very young age. So I'm guessing when they started raising them and everything, that's when the First Order was coming, and if they can't, it's going to be like a very John Connor Terminator thing. Is like, if I can't find Luke, I'm going to take out anyone that has a bloodline to him.
Because like it's a 30-year gap, and I guess we can say that like maybe because like the other guy has to have time to have been trained and turn evil before she gets marooned, and is figuring how is there even time for all
well,
this
that
to happen?
timeline is really confusing to me. Actually, now that you mention it, just because
like he's not a 30-year-old, so it must have been at least like.
Well, his actor is. His actor's actually 35, and
really? He looks fairly
22,
young.
24, like that young. But like the thing with Luke's situation, though, it seems like that must have happened recently, which makes no sense because they say like Luke went into hiding when this training thing fell through, which is basically talking about Kilo Ren and turning to the dark side. Because when Kilo Ren's being talked to by Supreme Chancellor or Supreme Leader Snoke, it seems like he's almost like a Padawan figure of what the Sith are. He's not a Sith yet. He's not Darth. And he's like, I'm going to complete his training at the end of the video. So it's like, when did this all really happen?
I guess you'd assume like Ben was like conceived maybe like 2 or 3 years after Jedi, and that like right now he's like 27, 28. But because he was probably like a Jedi, and they noticed like Force young, training probably started the second he could hold something. So it's probably like how like the traditional Jedi were like from like 5 onward was like Luke starting to train these like Force sensitive people, and maybe he was like 15 when he went ballistic. Like he doesn't need to be old.
See, I don't think that happened because remember when Han and Leia were talking about it, they sent when he says like he's got too much Vader in him, and it's like that's why we sent him to Luke. So it seems like he grew up and was having problems in his teenage years and then got sent to Luke. And then probably had, because teenage years are most likely for disobedience and arrogance when you start to realize that you have power.
That training and like I guess maybe like Luke had already started like training other Jedi maybe, and then he got like they then send him to Luke. So there's like a small class of like Jedi and stuff. And then he goes like ballistic, like in a time frame of a couple of years.
Well, I mean, like clearly unstable. Like look at him; every tantrum he has, he destroys the room with.
So I think like the gap between like Empire and Jedi is like a year, and like Luke got really good at doing stuff in that year. So I guess you can do like a year's a long time if you're only training, I guess.
Well, yeah,
so
like I mean,
it happened fairly snappy once the pieces were all in place.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm overall as far as characters going, Kilo Ren has got to be my least favorite.
Once he took off the mask, he became.
I really hated the mask doesn't fit his body stature. Like he's too slender to be menacing or feared in any way. Each Sith, has their own way of the Force. Like the main fear point of Darth Vader was the choke. Palpatine was lightning.
Well, his is like he's like
mind control. Like he controls the mind.
Yeah, he's like he's almost like using the Force on your brain to like pull at it. So it looks like it's like not only like he's getting the information out that way as long as they're not able to stop it.
I just don't have any fear with it. Is what I mean. Like I feel like his character, like when Darth Vader first comes in, A New Hope after that first battle, and he just comes through as this black figure and all this white and everything.
Yeah.
He's terrifying. With Kilo Ren, you can even see it in his people around him. They just think he's a snot-nosed kid that has tantrum problems, but he's strong.
Yeah, he has a lot of parallels to Anakin in the prequels, which I think is what they're going for, too.
And he could still be really young, as far as on our eyes. I would say he's probably 18 to 20.
It's possible. Like, I have no idea how... And it could be somewhere. There might be information.
There's so many gaps. There's 30 years of gaps right now.
Yeah.
But... with his character, when he isn't even that strong, all right? So Finn, he should have been able to destroy Finn so easily. Finn gave him a bit of a run for his money. Like, he got him with his lightsaber a bit. It wasn't a killing blow or anything like that. Finn, I thought, had no business holding a lightsaber.
Yeah.
I think that might be just their way of making it like Han respect the light, or the Force, maybe. I don't think he's going to be a Force user at all.
Yeah, so, I had, now that you bring that up, I had, so, like, I'm letting it pass for now because I don't know what the next movies will hold.
Yeah.
But the second a non-Jedi uses a lightsaber, the lightsaber becomes a little less important.
Meaningful. Like, it's like, anyone can use it.
Yeah. He used it, like it's like, yeah, sure, he spent his entire life training. I mean, so did every other fucking stormtrooper. But... that's still like that is supposed to be the weapon that only Jedi uses. So maybe he is Force sensitive because he is like unique.
Well, that's the thing is, like, I think anyone that
He's definitely better than any other stormtrooper out there.
Anyone that says, I've got a bad feeling about this, to me is a Force wheeler. So that puts my argument with the fan theory of Han.
Han's probably Force sensitive.
He's got Force sensitive.
Because his is luck, usually. He has good intuition.
And what Obi-Wan says, in my world, there's no such thing as luck. But the biggest scene...
He's the luckiest man ever.
The way that it, solidifies that point is in... A New Hope, when Luke is doing his training practice on the Falcon with that little rotating bit droid, he says, like, he makes his comment.
Ben's pretty snarky towards, like,
when he says
anything Han's saying, because it's like, it's almost as if, like, you don't even know the half of it.
Well, no, he seems like he, like, just smirks and goes like this, being like, little do you know, you've been using the Force this whole time.
Well, like, even in, like, I think it's A New Hope, when they have all those asteroids or whatever,
and like, don't tell me the odds.
Yeah, and C-3PO's like 1 in like a billion a chance of survival, and like he's a droid, and like those numbers don't come out. Like you assume that number doesn't come out of nowhere. Like that number is actually accurate. Some sort of statistical thing, and it's just like, yeah, but I'll get through it like I always do. Like he seems to be at least in tune with the Force, which is supposed to be like nature and like just your surroundings and everything.
Yeah.
So he's definitely probably Force sensitive, which is probably why him and Leia's kid is fucking ballistic.
Yeah, true. And I mean, like again with Kilo Ren's character, I just find it funny. Like I get maybe Rey's character is different because she was out of nowhere somehow able to know that the Force can make, like, in no way did anyone tell her that the Force can make people do things or manipulate.
Well, you have to assume that, like, they've been like every time something gets brought up, like Luke and Han Solo, they always talk about like the legends of them. So there's probably like
something about like mind control.
Yeah, the legends of Jedi probably also say like what Jedi
can do,
can and can't do. Like a Jedi could like persuade you with the Force and stuff like that,
get you to do things,
and also like if you are in tune with like they made her to be very clever and very good at problem solving. So if you have someone that is strong with the Force and learning it, she can probably, like, through trial and error, be like, if I'm supposed to be able to persuade people, let's try. Let's just be... Because she also, like, this was just after her back and forth mind control thing with Ben. So she probably, like, started to get a feel for it and, like, was like, okay, like, I pulled, like, she read his mind, so maybe I can... And, like, that was a hilarious scene, too. Like,
it was a good scene, especially with, like, the lap base. Like, I need to drop my weapon.
That whole
like, I will drop my weapon.
Yeah.
But
I heard rumors that was Daniel Craig.
I've heard that was Daniel Craig as well. He wanted to do it for shits and kicks and everything, just to be... Because, like, everyone loves Star Wars. Like, and Abrams is trying to say, it's like, why would he, like, give up, like... 007 just to put on a stormtrooper, blah blah blah, on his heavy schedule. It's because it's like probably because he's a fan, and honestly, he doesn't like being James Bond. So,
like Stephen Colbert was in like Lord of the Rings for like a moment, and like just a lot of people like sometimes these big people like to do cameos.
If we're going to speak about that, which is funny, is that scene where the Millennium Falcon with Rey and Finn that gets gobbled up by what is Han Solo's big
that
freighter
thing,
in there when Han Solo tells him to go down, and then you got the guy that's saying, you owe me, I want my 50,000 back, whatever, and he's like, blah, 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 I don't have to deal with this guy, and he's like, well, why don't you tell him himself? And then those people come out on the other side. Those people, the two main guys, are from the Raid of Redemption. Now, you have the one main SWAT cop guy that everyone knows, that's like the badass one, that literally can take on as much people as possible. And then beside him is his arch nemesis in the movies that just like he fights with his brother against in that like torture room. And I think he's also in the second one is a different character. That's the kind of like the trained assassin guy, but anyways, they were in that, which was very, very cool. Nice another cameo was, well, not really cameo, but like, you know, just a guy, just someone that's notable that took a small role.
Yeah, someone that just went in there because of Star
the
Wars.
Evil guy from Rush Hour 1.
Oh, really?
Was in the part of like Princess Organa's like planning where you saw like General Akbar.
Right? Yeah.
He was the Asian guy with black hair.
I saw him and I was like, what have I seen?
Rush Hour.
So it was Rush Hour.
Yeah. And that was really cool. There's obviously
the guy from Heroes in there too,
and the old man at the very beginning.
He's not a big actor.
There's the old man from the very beginning. That's I forget who he is, but he's an actor, the
one that gives them the map.
Yeah. I forget what he's from, but he's somebody.
Oh, speaking of the map, I thought it was really cool that they had both droids involved in piecing together this map as like a passing of the torch type thing.
I don't want them to.
I have a feeling like droids are easy, so like I have a feeling that like R2 still will like R2 was barely in the movie, but he was in the movie, and like C-3PO was barely in the movie, but he was in the movie, and they did good roles. But like it was nice seeing like R2 had this map, and then BB-8 had this part, and like
I think how it's going to work is R2 is just going to stay and with the people that his generation's with. So if they still end up going to that area, he'll still be in that like rebellion area. But BB-8 is passing the torch because if the main character and how this focal is going to be, if they ever do like another trilogy, it's going to be like having Rey and whoever. That's who's going to be there.
Yeah,
I think is what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
It
was a nice little touch. The map itself was a little funny because it's just it's just like this giant map, and then there's this piece missing, and it's just like
you could connect the dots for fuck's sakes. Like you could figure it out.
Yeah, I guess like the thing is like they had from BB-8 and they couldn't figure out what it was the small piece. So it's like when you have like a giant like thing, finding that small piece will take a while.
Well, to me that looked like just like a system,
this tiny little system, but like I mean it's in a world of like millions of systems. So and it's like these are like no one knows where these are type systems. So they need the big map. And I guess R2 was shut down the whole time. But it was just kind of funny like. They could have done maybe like an overlay, like one map on top of the other show stuff, rather than
that would have made more sense.
Piece.
I think that would have made more sense
because why don't you just check out that whole empty spot?
Why don't we just range our Star Killer? Okay, here's a great thing for those who don't know. Star Killer is actually the name of Darth Vader's apprentice from the Force Unleashed games, so that's a fun one.
Probably not canon, right?
It should be. It should be. Don't sear the wound, all right?
Yeah, it hurts. It doesn't matter.
But like charge up the sun. Let's do that, and then take out whatever's in that area. And let's keep going. Like they don't. The problem with or the thing about the First Order is much like the Empire. As long as it's not theirs, they don't care. They'll kill as many planets just to get what they want. So it doesn't matter to them. They could just say, "We're going to make this a dead zone now."
Yeah.
Okay, so. There's one thing I want to note about Finn. There's some things about his character I don't think work. I really don't like, but he still is a good character. I think just his origin is lacking. He said that he was someone that was taken from his family to be raised as a trooper. However, he's a very scared person when it comes down to the moment.
Well, he did say that he worked as a janitor at that station.
Well, that was just building up a bit.
That was like his career. Like his first battle was the battle we saw.
But I feel like as a stormtrooper and how these people work about fear and everything like that is that there's going to be a lot of almost like cult-like things that they would do to brainwash them. And the other thing that this to go off a bit of track, the thing I don't get is he said in the movie that this was his first mission to go out was probably the most important mission for the First Order to do, which was to get the map piece for Luke Skywalker. Why would you not take your seasoned people?
Maybe they weren't seasoned people. Maybe this was the first go for those people. Because this was like the group of people that aren't clones.
We don't have that.
Because
he said as a child though, so this is like 12 years maybe or whatever. Like, we don't know. But I feel like there was that. The only things that I thought that were a good nod to that. It makes sense that he was a stormtrooper, that he couldn't pick up on Han Solo's cue when he's nodding to him, being like, "Hey, Rey's over there." He's like, "What's this? What are you doing for this?"
Yeah, he's a little like not quite
he
there.
He is
with
a sharpshooter. Like when he picked up that blaster, he was a very sharpshooter quickly, and probably had the biggest kill streak at the very beginning of the movie.
He was definitely really good at shooting stuff, which is good because he.
But I feel like he would have some terrors, maybe, or some type of PTSD.
Because he wants to run a lot.
He wants to run a lot, but
we don't know why.
I feel like that he would have a lot of fear and a lot of anger still in some ways. I feel like if you're brought up that way, it's not just that simple. You're not Jack Bauer getting over cocaine in 3 hours, you know? Like, you just can't do it.
Yeah.
I feel like that was my biggest quarrel, was just like the origin bit. Like after that, like when he was doing his thing, like yeah, he's a runner. He gives him the jacket, so he's like the next scoundrel type of thing.
Yeah.
I do appreciate his character and where it can go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Rey is probably my favorite of the three. Clearly because she obviously can use the Force, but she's like you said before, I think in the previous video, that she is...
or was it before we even recorded?
Maybe. That she is the summation of almost all three.
That was in the car.
Yeah, it was in the car when we were talking about it. That she's a summation of all three of them in some way. Like, she's obviously got that hint of, like, Leia in her.
She was like the
spiciness.
Yeah, the strong, spicy, commanding like thing. Yeah. Like, those are all Leia's personality.
You have the pilot. Well, the pilot, I would say, is more of Luke Skywalker's.
A combination of Luke... But, like, the engineering know-how of...
That is Han, 100%. And then the Force, obviously, comes from the Skywalker. Like,
arguably all three of them in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, totally. But
yeah, I mean, she is, like...
She's a good representation of all of them.
Yeah, she's still, like, young and, like she has lots to learn. But, yeah, she's definitely a good character. I was super happy with her character. Yeah, definitely probably my favorite character to come out of that movie next to, like, the only thing close is probably BB-8, but that's for different reasons, and I think droids are, like, you have to group
their own thing.
You have to group them differently because droids have the advantage of being adorable, and they're also usually used as comic relief a lot of the time.
And not a major bit. Like, I mean, when Rey was about to go down and, like, find Luke's lightsaber and stuff, when he's just in the background going down the stairs, like, boom.
Yeah, and that was amazing too, because normally in a lot of the movies, or like at least in the prequels, I've noticed there'd be times where you see one of the droids coming up to something that is impossible for them to get up, like,
and then they just happen to be like next frame,
and then it cuts to the scene where they've already done it, and it's just like, and then this one you see it like taking its time going downstairs. And it's like, and it was hilarious. Like, people were laughing, and like so one thing that this movie did really good is, like, because Star Wars is for kids as well. The prequels, they tried to make it... They did it in, like, a SpongeBob manner, where it's just, like, loud, obnoxious character. Jar Jar is going to make the kids happy. But this movie, it was timing, and it was, like, snarky remarks, or, like, references to stuff in the, like, the Star Wars universe.
Or there's BB-8 doing the thumbs up with the lighter.
Yeah, like just little timing things. Like, BB-8 was hilarious with just, like, lighter thumbs up, or like the back and forth between BB-8 and Finn. That was really good when they're when they're just like, he's just like, lied for me, like, and stuff like that. Yeah. Those were good. C-3PO got probably the first laugh ever. That was hilarious when C-3PO comes in and it's just like, Han Solo. It's like, I'm C-3PO. You might not have recognized me because I have a red arm now. Like, and it's just like, after that, she's like, who was that droid with the red arm? I've never seen him before. Why did they make another Protochrome droid? It's not needed. That was great. Like, just, like, the characters being their character allowed for, like, humor. Like, like Rey saying, like, oh, we can't go to that piece of junk. We'll go to my speeder. Speeder blows up. Let's check the piece of junk. And it's the Millennium Falcon. And, like...
Yeah, it was. Like, they had some good cues for humor, like, in the right manner.
Like, it was funny, but it wasn't annoying. It
wasn't forced either. You know?
It wasn't like, I want this character dead. It's just like a character saying something that was funny, and that was what you wanted.
You know, that's what I think they did really well with Chewbacca in this one. Was he had a lot of humorous cues. I thought they were really funny, especially when he's getting mended. He's like, well, that sounds very scary. You must be a brave boy. He's like, you know, like, I really appreciated Chewie more in this movie.
I think they meant to do that too. I think they're I think Chewbacca is going to be inherited by either like Rey or Finn or something like that, or even I don't even know if Poe is going to be.
I don't think Finn's going to last this whole 3 movies.
Yeah, who knows who? Like we know. Well, we assume Rey will in some way or another. Yeah. She seems to be the driving force.
She's going to be the.
At least I hope so.
Also, I don't think I'm crazy. I think Rey's character looks a lot like Khaleesi. She's got that same smile and everything. I don't know. I get very Khaleesi vibes from her. Different, obviously, because she's not as super naive about a lot of things. She's actually more cautious. Yeah. I really like her character. She's got a bit of everything. It's great. kudos for her for being able to use the Force much faster than Luke, and already seemed to kind of be on par with Kilo Ren a little bit.
Yeah,
which is kind of a shot at Kilo Ren's potential. Like,
I think the thing with Kilo Ren is like, because like no one takes him that seriously either.
I think it's more so the fact trained that much in the dark side.
Yeah, he's dabbling with dark side stuff, so probably his Jedi training with Luke probably isn't what he's using right now, and like he probably wasn't using that lightsaber before, and the only reason why he's there is because, like, that big other guy, the Supreme...
Snoke.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Snoke a little
he's
bit.
interested in this guy a bit, and that's about it, and I think that's why he's there. Because, like, Darth Vader, like, every so often the generals would be like, your wizard ways are blah, 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 but they feared him still, like...
And he'd kill them.
And he'd kill them, and, like, he'd be representing the Emperor, where this is, like, different. This is, like, an apprentice trying to get his feet wet in like this giant thing. Like,
to me, it feels like he's that jackass that got hired. He's the boss's son, and people just don't respect him. And it's just like, you're already risen to power. It's like when he's having a tantrum. You see the two stormtroopers come up and say, "Ah, shit," and walk away. And that
was a funny scene.
Like, the guy that's
he's freaking out again.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And then there's that guy that's supposed to be like Tarkin. Tarkin was that old guy that was like, "Vader, release him." All that stuff. Like he was basically amazing. Like, he has a great side story, good side books, but the guy that's taking over him that looks a bit like Benedict Cumberbatch in a slimy way is a bit more of like, he seems more, doesn't seem smart. He doesn't seem, but he's really like looking down at Kilo Ren. So I feel like Kilo Ren the only way for him to get feared now is to do something that's going to be torturous to this guy.
Yeah.
He has to gain the respect of the people all around him to front him, or else he's going to crash and burn as an enemy in any way.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, throughout the movie, Kilo Ren is struggling, and he's, like, brought it up when he's, like, talking to Darth Vader's mask and stuff.
Like, I feel it again.
Yeah, he's struggling with this. He could be, like, not good at what he's doing because he is having inside this internal struggle between light and dark, and so it's, like, clouding everything.
It's kind of
But now he's... like
free of it.
He says he's free of it now because he killed Han. Yeah. And like when he was fighting Rey, he did get shot by Chewie's gigantic crossbow bolt beforehand, so he was also fairly injured.
True. I mean,
he was bleeding out while fighting.
I find it very funny they try to do a real epic thing where he sticks his hand out trying to force push or force grab the lightsaber and just wouldn't come. Now that could just be because I'm guessing that there was the two forces both going on it, so it didn't really move because it was like an equilibrium. And then Rey won over, and then it shot past and grabbed it, so maybe that was happening the whole time. I just found it funny, he was just going like this, and he's able just to go up someone and like do this brain control, but just can't instantly do it like that. Like Darth Maul when he would just like point at something and shoot it against like the wall.
He probably can like force grab very well. That could also been more of the internal struggle, like that is a lightsaber representing the light side,
the good side of Anakin and Luke.
It's the good.
But that lightsaber also killed like multiple younglings in the Jedi Temple.
Yeah, well,
right. Actually, that's one thing I'm really happy that they did is bring back the lightsaber that was lost in Cloud City.
You just need to explain how they found that.
It's in the books. So what happens is he gets cut off and whatever, and a bounty hunter finds it or whatever, but also finds Luke's hand. Like grabs that, and then that hand actually has a significance that someone implants it, and because midichlorians is something about your cells reacting with the Force, that it now inhabits itself with the person. Anyways, that's a really cool like sci-fi side thing, but like
book stuff.
I like it that it's just like like someone in the canon books does find these things, and they're like, it's there. Like I really did enjoy that.
It's nice seeing that there.
Mm-hmm. And I find it good that they actually did, like, the stormtroopers have a thing that actually can block at least a lightsaber, because you think that they would, over time and time again, find some way.
Yeah.
Like General Grievous's droids with, like, the pole arms.
Yeah, and it's like they probably didn't have it going on before, because, like, the way the Empire was working there was, like, there was no Jedi, so why protect against Jedi? Like, like, lightsabers weren't a thing. It's just armies, so you don't need to protect against a lightsaber. You need to just shoot things really fast. So that's what stormtroopers were bred to do. But now it's like, there was a little uprise of Jedi, and then they try to get rid of it. So now, prepare for when that happens.
Well, okay. Since we're on characters here, there's one more I want to talk about, which is the big figure, Snoke. Andy Serkis's character.
Is it Andy Serkis?
It's Andy Serkis.
Oh,
Could you not get a little bit of his face, kind of like Gollum-esque?
Maybe.
But
it'd be funny if his character's actually this big, and it's just the hologram projection is just really, it's just like Yoda size.
No, but that's the thing is he is a projection basically. There's multiple things that I think of. There's a lot of people think it's Darth Plagueis, which was Sidious's master that he so said killed. Which what makes sense to me in that sense is there is a gash in its skull, and Sidious did say Darth Plagueis the Wise. Big thing was to learn how to not die, to harness his midichlorians, which is what Anakin was able to do when he was getting burned or whatever. He stayed alive by doing that. So there's that one thing, and then Kilo Ren also says Supreme Leader Snoke is wise and everything. He says that thing. So there's two things that support that sense. Or it could be Plagueis as a Force ghost. See, we don't know if this person is physical or not yet. We haven't seen him. We don't know. He could be super small. He could be 8 feet tall, and he could just be projecting this big so people fear him. He's not human in any way. He doesn't look like a nun, but Darth Plagueis' character is canon, but his race technically isn't now. Right?
Okay.
Another thing is, my thought on Snoke is I've looked up all the different Siths just for shits and giggles before.
That list.
And the strongest one is one called Exar Kun, which is he is a very large being. Very. And what he was...
Plus 1 point to this theory already.
Yeah, very large. If it was to scale, his projection was to scale. This makes sense.
It actually shrunk him a bit.
It doesn't do... camera adds 50 pounds, man. But not only that is he was a Jedi and then wanted to become, how Anakin says, I want to be the most powerful Jedi ever. After killing I killed them like animals. He did that, so then he went to learn he mastered all the Jedi ways and then went all to the Sith ways and then ended up slaughtering. He was a gray Jedi, so to speak, because he did not care. And
just wanted to learn everything and kill everyone else off.
Yeah, but his timeline happens basically around after Return of the Jedi. It makes sense. What happens is he actually slaughters and kills all of Luke's students, new students and stuff, which kind of makes sense with what we're going on in here, because he could have met up with Ben Solo, at some point, and then done this, manipulated him, and that's how it means that he killed them. He that's manipulated.
True. Yeah, they could, and because the books aren't canon, that also means they can be reference material. So he could be also a completely new guy based off of this guy.
Exactly. Well, that's what I mean. It could be he could be called if it's Plagueis, it could be Darth Plagueis. They don't need to, because they never said he was a mum. Sorry, mum. They did. So it's open ended. So if they're going to say he is wise, it's either because he is Darth Plagueis, because Darth Plagueis' tag was Darth Plagueis the Wise, or it's Exar Kun because he learned and mastered both sides. So it's open ended. There's some people trying to say that
it could be Plagueis, but they take a lot of this stuff from this other guy.
It could be
and just put it
together.
In a character.
It could be
just because Plagueis is a name that's been mentioned before, and they probably want to do broad strokes and be reference stuff in existing movie materials if possible.
The other thing too is because there's always since Darth Bane, there's that rule of 2, right? So he could also be wise, and they could reference all these different Sith and stuff just because there's tablets and stuff, there are inscriptions from Sith and all this stuff. They learn because of the previous person. It's just almost it's almost like a family tree, because there's always 2.
Yeah.
And one kills the other one to do that and takes on a new person once they've learned everything. So it's not ridiculous.
Yeah.
People were wrong on certain things that they thought. They thought Kilo Ren was actually Skywalker.
Everyone thought that. No, it's just well, he's really slender, so that's already visually
it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't work.
In the book,
it also didn't seem Luke's style of rage from the trailers, I guess.
Yeah.
I know, I didn't get a Luke.
It makes no sense that after he kills him, that he becomes fascinated with his father.
Yeah.
It really doesn't to me.
No.
And I mean, Ben Skywalker's in the books is the one that idolizes Vader. So, like, it makes sense that they kind of mesh those two people together. But yeah, with Luke, it doesn't make sense. There is a brief time where Luke does go to the dark side, but it was brief and comes back. So I was like, well, that's not a big thing. And like, are they really going to make the first movie after he vanquishes Vader of this?
Yeah, it
after
would be
30 years,
it'd be really
it makes
awkward.
No sense.
I just don't think if anything, they might reference like a time where he does, or he just doesn't in this like current canon. Mm-hmm. The funny thing is having Mark Hamill as a villain would have been amazing, especially if he was like a psychotic one. Because he's the voice of the Joker.
Of the Joker. Yeah.
So
yeah, that'd be really cool.
If he put on a mask and had to come up with a voice, you could have a Darth like Joker type character.
Darth Bats.
That'd be terrifying.
It would be terrifying. Yeah.
But yeah, I did not buy that was Luke at any point.
With the message that they try to go on with the movies, because only diehards will read book on book on book on book, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, this is also a Disney-esque thing. Like, Luke was the light. He is the pure light. They're in no way going to show sway in that. They might mention it.
They showed, like, wavering in, like, his battles, and then he overcomes it. Like, he doesn't slip into the darkness.
Exactly.
That's what his father did. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't need to. Like, it's...
And then, like, the other thing is there's people thinking it was Jar Jar Binks, which was hilarious.
I mean, Jar Jar Binks
I would have loved...
Sith Lord.
I love the fan theory about Darth Jar Jar. It makes sense in the prequels, but it should stay in the prequels.
Yeah, no, it's... So, like... I don't... Like, people were talking about... Like, I've watched some of those videos of, like, Darth Jar Jar, and, like, I don't think it's a thing. I think it's just, like, a thing.
It could have been.
It was like... Yeah, if you watch, like, the first one, it's, like... It's a possibility space. Like, I imagine that maybe Lucas wanted to do the possibility of that because he really likes the idea of, like... things that seem like incidental, weird characters actually be big, important things. Like Yoda was a freak show when he's first introduced, and then once he's called Master Yoda, then he like snaps out of it. But I think I don't know.
We don't have to get too deep with the Jar Jar.
Yeah, it was a possibility.
The Darth Banks.
Yeah, but what it did do is if you watch like any of those videos about it, and then just watch the prequels, or at least specifically like the first one.
Yeah.
That whole movie becomes really fun to watch if you're just staring at
you are definitely being like...
Or staring at Jar Jar and just being like, you know, this could be. Like,
in no way do you see his other beings do a giant jump like he did into that water. In no ways do you see them have the color of eyes that he has, which is the Sith color.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff, like... Although I think like a lot of stuff is just like him doing that jump could have just them... be trying to make him seem more fun.
Yeah.
And like everything he does, like they could have maybe made his, like when it shows him like almost voicing words to people, it could have just been like his character just like does that or something.
Well, when you're engaged in a conversation with people and you think you know the answer and it's right, you do mouth it along too. Like that is just nature.
And that could have just been like Lucas be like, this would just be fun to like a lot of the stuff could have been just because it's fun.
Yeah.
I was more like I think like they want to keep the door open, so they always had him like with Palpatine, and if like that could have just been because Jar Jar, they wanted him to become a senator at some point or something like that.
They wanted his character to stay in it, and they didn't know how to do it because they didn't want to keep him under.
Yeah, because the reception was terrible.
Well, it's because
that was not how to make a comic relief. I think
where what they did, idiot.
Yeah, like they wanted they always want to have comedy in this stuff. But that was a bad way of doing it.
You know what? If they had spurts, though, within the movie, like he does that, and then you see him, if this was a Darth thing, him onto the side and talking to, like, Sidious or something like that, and then going in and making it a big ruse, and then it was something that we saw as dramatic irony, then it might make it different.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's a deleted scene when, like, he's saying, like, I suggest that we make, like... Supreme Chancellor,
well, yeah, that was the scene, and then the scene,
and it's Palpatine. He's like, "Thanks for making me the leader," basically, and it was just like, "Huh," you know, like
there's definitely some stuff there. It could have just been he trusting, like they're from the same planet and stuff like that. But anyways, yeah.
Overall, like with Force Awakens, I do have to say, like, aside from like I am a diehard with Star Wars. As far as looking at it as a movie itself, it is amazing. I would say, like that. As far as a Star Wars movie, I would say it did its justice.
It was definitely because you had said in the other video, like, and it's true, like that movie is basically
A New Hope,
a retelling of A New Hope with new characters, new situations, but the same thing,
it's the same milestones. It seems like,
yeah. For the most part, in things like you could tell stuff was going to happen based off of just how A New Hope plays out. But I think that was the right way to do it, because this is supposed to like revitalize the movies of it and be like,
yeah, well,
you need to be safe. And then hopefully the next movie is not a retelling of Empire.
But, no, exactly. That's how you do, like, passing the torch to make old significant characters not be as significant and the new ones take over that reign, because you got to have that similarity that people can at least be like. The originals are so great because the characters is like there's the Han Solo, Luke, whatever, and those other characters, Chewbacca and everything. You can't replace Chewbacca, so they'll put Chewbacca in.
Yeah.
Who can we make in some sense that is like this character, because that's what people relate to. It's like, okay, now that we have that, we have to add more layers to it to make it different. Like same, but different, right? Yeah. So I understand it, and I think it all comes down to now how the next movie goes. And the other thing is that's going to make it interesting is because it's not J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
So
who's doing?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it.
The 9th one's done by the person that did the new Jurassic Park movie.
I thought 8 and 9 were going to be done by the same person.
I don't know.
I could be wrong because they.
Yeah.
But
doesn't matter really.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, this was a good foundation. I think good characters were introduced. The world still looks like Star Wars. Prequel didn't really look Star Wars.
I would say it's gorgeous. Like, I understand CGI was kind of a new thing that people were tricking with. In the prequels,
CGI is like fine, but there are spots that you don't need to do it. Like Mad Max is a great example.
Mad Max is fantastic
because like they had the CGI in that movie is like super minor things, and then that storm, and then like everything else is like,
there
is real effects, real stunts, and it looked amazing.
The cars, and everything. But like there was so many models and everything like that, and they had that good bit of that and CGI that made it look really good. Like obviously. They had a model of the Star Killer. However, you can still tell when it was like giant and everything. There was some touch-ups and everything, and like there was balance.
Yeah,
there was balance to the Force in this bit.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So yeah, I would say overall, like I saw it twice, and I saw it both times. I enjoyed it. Of course, like all movies, you'll always find a benchmark to critique it at, which is what we've done. But I would go see it. I would give it 4 rebellion symbols out of 5.
4 rebellion symbols out of 5. Hopefully, anyone watching has already seen it, or they have made a terrible mistake. But either way, even if you haven't seen it and you don't care, and you're not the type to care about spoilers, it is a fun journey. It was a very fun movie too.
Yep.
Like, the characters are likable. The comments they make are hilarious.
Their worlds, they actually didn't.
Visually, it's pretty nice.
A completely different system. Like, Jakku that's Tatooine, and they had where the Star Killer kind of was like a Hoth-ish area, kind of.
Yeah.
But like they never traveled into an old area, which I actually liked.
Different area.
It was a different system, a different world. Oh, before we cut off on this, there's one thing that I meant to say that really was kind of funny. Either it's that basically through Darth Vader's plot to kill all Jedi and everything, maybe they destroyed all relics or anything like that. But how obvious is it for Luke to start hanging out at the original first Jedi temple?
I think the thing was they just don't know where that is.
I get that.
Because then
it might be.
Didn't Anakin destroy all of the like stuff in the Jedi library after he killed all the younglings?
No, because they were able to see him killing the younglings.
Yeah, but I thought like there was like a lot of information that he just wrecked.
I'd have to rewatch to make sure on that, but maybe that's why. However, like,
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you could have checked out here, guys, but maybe it's a really
it wasn't practical. But like that's the other thing too is I find is why people are like, well, it's super obvious for Luke to be on Tatooine because that's where Darth Vader grew up. It's like that's exactly why you put him there. is because the Sith way is never to confront your past or your wrongings or whatever that could potentially bring you back to who you were or anything like that. So it made sense to put Luke there because there's that whole bit where we talked about Tatooine. He's like, well, the sand, it's Force.
Gets everywhere.
Gets everywhere. So it could be that too. It's just like because it's the
original.
It could be that since it's the original like Jedi temple, there could be a lot of mystical powers. Like it could be like that Dagobah, like on Dagobah, where he goes and he fights when Luke fights Darth Vader in that bit. That's actually like a Sith crypt. And like there's those powers, so maybe they're fearful of that.
Maybe.
I don't know, but that doesn't stop them from blowing up that planet.
They just might not.
I thought that was just a very interesting thing. It's like I was expecting him to be on somewhere that you wouldn't expect, like a Dagobah, where it's just like a swamp and he's a hermit. Yeah. But maybe this will give us some room for like some mystical stuff, or like new bits of the Force.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I mean, I would really like. Both of us would really appreciate you. Like, comment, tell us what you think. Please subscribe.
Please touch the lightsaber.
Yeah, please subscribe. That way we can know if you're liking this. If you're commenting on us, tell us some questions you might have. Maybe if we get enough questions, we can make another video. I love talking about Star Wars. We went off rails of Force Awakens, obviously, a bit. So we can just talk about anything about it at all times. So please give us your input. We really appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.